What is up? Tom here, live on Thursday, on Derek Shelton's birthday, on Kody Clemens' day, it was all of our birthday today. We are going to definitely talk about that ending to today's Twins game. I am live, but if you are here, happen to be here catching this on replay, I like to kind of start these out like a normal video and then kind of roll into a lot of interaction later on. So I do want to get going into some talk about today's game. We're going to talk about some big picture stuff with the Twins in general. Might get into some deadline stuff. But yeah, this what's a picture is worth 1,000 words or whatever. I mean, that's the win probability chart. You couldn't get any more probable for a victory, and somehow the Twins won. I don't understand it. We're gonna have to piece this thing back together for me to put this together because I was out when this happened, so I did not get to witness this live. I went and rewatched the ninth inning though twice. I got to listen to a bunch of this game. I got to catch some of it on TV, and then I was out for much of it. It was such a frustrating game, and it's incredible that the Twins came back. So, again, let's do some look back on this inning. Twins, they had one hit entering the bottom of the ninth inning. The first two hitters get out. They are down to their final out, down 3-0. They've had one hit the entire game. Ryan Jeffers gets hit by a pitch, and that's kind of just where everything turned. But it was not easy. It was not easy at all. Royce Lewis fell behind 0-2 and just kind of had to battle back. He swung through a slider, took a fastball that was in the zone. So the Twins were down to their final strike and in a bad count to be in for a hitter. Royce took a slider down and away, then a sinker down and away. Again, I talked about this in my last video about how Royce, I think he understands the assignment. It's easier said than done to adjust, but I think Royce understands how pitchers are attacking him and knows he has to be careful about chasing. So he did a nice job taking those two pitches, but on a full count, he did chase that number 5 pitch that's way out of the zone. That's in like the other batter's box. But Royce was not like geared up to try to hit a walk-off or not. He wouldn't even been a walk-off home run, but he wasn't geared up to be a hero or anything. He just kind of poked his bat out and luckily shot one through the infield. Poked it right through the middle of the infield. So Royce gets a single. Twins move on down to their final strike. Things keep going. They still only have got 2 guys on, 2 outs. Pretty dire situation. Josh Bell, he comes up. He falls down 0-2. This foul ball he hit on that second pitch, that was barely out of play. Barely out of play. A couple feet over and it might have got caught. Or if there was more foul territory and the left fielder didn't have to, try to account for am I going to run into the wall or not. So close. This is not right. This is Kody Clemens. Excuse me. I labeled these wrong. If you were wondering if we were live, so if you're following me talking, I am still getting back in the flow of the live streams. Okay. This is the Josh Bell. That was Kody Clemens. We're not quite there yet. This is the Josh Bell. So yeah, it was the same deal though. As I was saying, one of these foul balls he hit, I think it was the second pitch. Foul ball to left field, so he hits it the other way, barely got out of play. Fell behind 0-2. Once again, Twins down to their last strike. Josh Bell works a walk, comes all the way back from 0-2 to work a walk to load the bases for Kody Clemens, and then there's Kody Clemens. Kody takes a sinker down, fouls off another sinker, so he's down 0-2. So Jeffers gets on with the hit by pitch. Royce Lewis gets down 0-2, singles. Josh Bell gets down 0-2, draws a walk. Kody Clemens gets down 0-2, gets this slider. I'm sure Strom did not mean for this to even be anywhere near the zone. So he got way more of the plate. It got way more in the zone than they wanted it to. Obviously, up 0-2, they had a bunch of pitches to play with. That's not how it worked out for them. And Kody Clemens, it's not like every hitter hits every mistake pitch, even in the big leagues. Kody Clemens hit the bejesus out of that pitch for the walk-off grand slam. Again, just an incredible comeback. I mean, the words can't even like explain this game. Twins were being no hit. I think that was into the seventh or through seven. Ryan Jeffers finally dumped one into the outfield for a single. Crazy stuff. Let's see what do we got here. All right, jumping around here. Going to check in on the chat and then kind of get going on another topic real quick. Yeah. For those of you who missed it, MLB.com accidentally marked Pablo Lopez. They were replica jerseys, but still like $100+ jerseys for $4. They'd clearanced a bunch of stuff out, and one of them was a Pablo Lopez jersey for $4. I ordered one, and a bunch of other people ordered them, and MLB canceled those orders and like basically admitted it was a mistake for marking those down or whatever. So if you're wondering what the heck that's about. What's up, everybody? Thank you for being here live with me. Yes, Royce has been working some great at-bats lately, much better than we're used to at the very least. He's got to continue to do that, and, we'll see, but that's a great sign. I also think he's looked pretty good at second base as well. Trade. Yeah, we'll do some trade talk. Not quite ready there. Yeah. Down 0-2, 2 outs, genuinely unbelievable. Yeah, I watched the top of the ninth, and then I had to leave, and I had zero expect. They had one hit. They had one hit the whole game, and they had been shut out the day prior. The lineup just hasn't looked good. We'll get to that in a moment too. Yeah, crazy. Oh, someone says they purchased a $2 magnet. I bought some other stuff to get to the free shipping minimum. And from what I've seen, all that other stuff I bought that was cheap shipped. I think somebody just messed up on that jersey. But anyway, all right. Let me jump back into my notes here. I want to talk about the bullpen. Actually, we can leave the chat up for this too. So you'll see before we pivot to the bullpen, I do want to show, you see up in the top there is the wild card picture. Here is the current state of the AL Central. Cleveland is 2 back of Chicago, and the Twins are 3 back of the White Sox. And then in the wild card picture, which is what I had there, I'll just get a bigger version up here. Yankees very securely in a wild card spot. Boston, of course, they went on that crazy hot streak. They are in, I can't say securely in because they're only a game and a half up on Cleveland, but they're in. They're not on like the hot seat like Cleveland is right now. Cleveland only a game up on the Twins, only a game up on the Astros, who the Astros are really hot now. And then Seattle fading back. That's the team that the Twins are going to play next, and Baltimore also. Those teams are only a game and a half back of the Twins. So the American League still very tight. Obviously, the Twins taking this game, staying in the hunt. I thought if they couldn't have a winning homestand against the A's and the Royals, that kind of told you everything you needed to know. Now these were ugly. These were ugly wins, but a win is a win and a win is a win. And sometimes you got to win ugly, and there is no counting out this Twins team. So when that's the case, I think they really deserve a shot. But yeah, they have a tough test coming. Reminder though, I do want to call this out. It's really easy to forget if you're used to the trade deadline coming on July 31st. That is not the case this year. It's moved back. It's on August 3rd, Monday at 5 p.m. Central Time. So Monday at 5 p.m. Central Time is the deadline. So the Twins are going to Seattle. That series will be completed before the deadline. Then it's starting a road trip. So they start that trip in Seattle. Then they go to at Kansas City and at Milwaukee. That's a tough one too. So not an easy road trip coming up here. It's going to be a challenge. Speaking of the division, again, this is what the division looks like at the moment. The Twins and White Sox play 6 games against each other between now and the end of the season. I think the Twins and Cleveland only play 3. But yeah, 6 more games against the White Sox for the Twins. So very much, only 2 months of the season left basically, but there's still a lot to go over. All right, before we get into like kind of the really nitty-gritty stuff, the bullpen. The bullpen has been the absolute unsung heroes of the second half. People might be looking at these wins and think, oh, it's just a lucky the Royce Lewis walk-off. Oh, just a lucky, well, this Kody Clemens walk-off. Oh, it's all luck. The Twins have pitched pretty well, the starting pitching, and the bullpen has been remarkably good in the second half. Their past handful of games. So this Kansas City series, the bullpen had 9 shutout innings. 9 shutout innings from the bullpen in this Kansas City series. I understand, the Royals and the A's, not the scariest lineups, sure. But at this point, we'll take anything we can get. And again, if you want to try to kind of dig down to how were the Twins in these games, again, good starting pitching, but the bullpen kept the Twins in these games. Sunday was the Cole Sands game, we'll call it. Cole Sands had a really rough outing. Travis Adams also gave up a couple runs. So that was the big blemish, was on Sunday. Saturday, though, 5 shutout innings from the bullpen. That Friday, 3 shutout innings from the bullpen. That Thursday, which was that extra inning game against Cleveland, 5 shutout innings from the bullpen. So excluding that Cole Sands game, which RIP his whole arm. Fortunately, Cole Sands is basically his entire arm exploded and it needs to get rebuilt. So best of luck to him on the comeback trail on rehab. But the Twins still won that one. That they did have a very poor bullpen performance. They still won 11-8 in that game. But outside of that game, the Twins bullpen has delivered 22 shutout innings in that span. 22 shutout innings in that span from that Cleveland extra inning game to today. So the bullpen has been remarkably good. Now, that doesn't mean the bullpen is Joe Ryan. We're going to get to Joe Ryan. We're going to talk Buxton. We're going to talk Joe Ryan. We're going to talk about the lineup. We're going to talk about Walker Jenkins. So we're going to get to some stuff. But yeah, the bullpen, just a huge shout out. That doesn't mean everything is fixed. That doesn't mean they don't need to look at that as an area of need. But if you're trying to figure out how in the world the Twins aren't hitting, the starting pitching, Joe Ryan's not been as good, which we'll talk about Joe Ryan. How in the world is this team staying in these games? Obviously, it's some insane clutch hitting. But the bullpen has been awesome. Yeah, we'll talk some trades. We'll get back to those. But something I do want to call out. One of my favorite things about doing these is it's really fun to have, an audience to interact with live. But also, I think you guys can get some chat going with each other too. So don't think that's just for me being up there. And obviously the chat you guys on YouTube have that as well. So definitely, if I get on a roll, you guys enjoy chatting with each other as well. So yeah, I mean, I've been on team. I want the Twins to pressure the front office and the ownership to buy. They're still on the razor's edge. It's close enough that I've had a quartet of pitching prospects that I'm keeping aside, who I think would be really interesting targets, under the radar pitching prospects. I think would make for really interesting prospects if the Twins sold. So it's not like I'm saying there's no way the Twins would sell, or if things went differently in this homestand. But you can't count them out of anything at this point. This team deserves a chance. That's the best way that I would put it. This team deserves a chance. The way they're playing, the way that they're fighting. This is the first time since 1991 that the Twins have had a winning record both at Yankee Stadium and in Cleveland. Both. That's pretty crazy. Another stat I want to throw out. This one fluctuates daily. The record against 500 teams or better. There's so many teams hovering around 500 that this fluctuates daily. This was coming into today. The Twins had a winning record against teams 500 or better. They were 33-32 entering today. There are only 3 other American League teams that have a winning record against 500 or better teams. Tampa Bay, and again, this was entering today. Tampa Bay was 33-27. The Yankees were 31-26, and the Astros were 30-22. Other than that, those 3 teams, the Twins, the only other American League team with a winning record against teams 500 or better, 33-32. So This has been a tough team. This has been a team that's won on the road. This has been a team that has held up against winning teams 500 or better. So, I think last stream somebody kind of asked what's so special about this team, and I think that wraps it up pretty good. But this series wraps it up pretty good. That Royce Lewis walk off in this series as well came in a game where they hit into 5 double plays and still won that one. So there's really no counting these guys out. They're doing the illogical. They're defying the odds. This game today, that Kody Clemens walk-off homer, and just credit to all the guys getting to that point too. It's remarkable that all 3 of those guys, Lewis, Bell, and Clemens, all fell behind 0-2. And, even just beyond any other context of that, that's bananas that they pulled that off. Yeah, some other some names being thrown out. Yeah, Jenkins. You know what? There's some talk about Jenkins, so I want to talk about that. I basically predicted that unintentionally. There was a Nostradamus early this morning, when I was kind of still processing a lot of the outrage, really, that Walker Jenkins wasn't called up, that they called up Tristan Gray. I was thinking about this morning, and something I threw out was like, hey, Max Clark, same draft class as Walker Jenkins, about the same time in AAA, pretty similar production. And look, Detroit hasn't called him up yet. And then, probably as I was typing that out, the news broke that Max Clark was promoted. So I'm going to take that as an unintentional Nostradamus moment. Those are my favorite ones when I'm not actually predicting anything, but I've somehow kind of willed it into existence. You're welcome, Tigers fans. It was all me. But it's interesting. There aren't that many guys in their age 21 season though that play in the big leagues. Clark is going to be the 10th guy this season in his age 21 season to reach the big leagues. So it is unusual. Detroit also has a worse record than the Twins. Their outfield and lineup, and the Twins have been bad. So, we're holding our nose looking at this Twins lineup right now, but Detroit's outfield has been god-awful. Their lineup has been really bad. So there's good reason to argue that Max Clark should have been promoted earlier, but he's promoted now. And, looking at the Twins, the way I saw it, I didn't look at it as Tristan Gray versus Walker Jenkins, because I think Tristan Gray is just going to kind of sit and rot on the bench and serve as infield depth. So, I didn't view that as like a 1-to-1, which a lot of people viewed that as. I kind of see Walker Jenkins as, if you're calling up Walker Jenkins, Alan Roden's not playing anymore. Some of you are saying fine. If you're calling up Walker Jenkins, but you want to play Alan Roden, what are you going to do with Luke Keeschall? I don't know what to do with Luke Keeschall, to be completely honest. I have no idea. So I think with the Twins right now, why Walker Jenkins isn't on the Twins right now, they want to figure out, is Luke Keeschall a center fielder? Is he an outfielder? Is he a center fielder? What are we doing with Luke Keeschall? With the Twins being so bad against left-handed pitching, overall, they have their moments, but overall they're bad against left-handed pitching. We've seen that a lot recently. Luke Keeschall is a really important piece. So they need to figure out where in the heck he fits into the puzzle. So there's a lot of, and just beyond that, Luke Keeschall's a future, he's got a long-term guy. Alan Roden, I think they just want to figure out what's going on there. And Alan Roden has been better at AAA, much better at AAA than Walker Jenkins has, to be fair. Now Jenkins does some things better than Roden does. Roden is not going to get the leash forever. He didn't do well in his opportunities in Toronto before the trade. He didn't do well in the brief time he was with the Twins after the trade. And he's had some big hits. He's come up with some clutch hits since being called up, but he's not going to get forever. It's eventually going to be a thing where they're going to call him a quad A guy. And that's what the numbers say so far. But, kind of a tough situation when you're not playing. You're kind of an extra guy, but with a lot of the prospects that have come up kind of have said the same thing. Sometimes you just have to figure it out. Like, your guys are used to playing every day in the minors, but if you're Alan Roden, you kind of have to look around at the moment with Trevor Larnach here, at the moment at least, with Luke Keyshaw in the outfield picture, with Walker Jenkins coming from behind you. Byron Buxton we'll talk about in a sec. Hopefully he won't be out too long. Well, Alan Roden's just got to look at the situation and say, like, I'm not going to play every day. I got to take advantage of every single opportunity I get. And if he doesn't, I don't think he's going to get a lot of opportunities for too much longer. So I don't think this is like a long, like the Twins won't ever promote Walker Jenkins over Alan Roden, but I think they just kind of want to see what Alan Roden can do, and they want to see what Luke Keyshaw can do in the outfield. Luke Keyshaw is going to be a topic of conversation when we get to Joe Ryan. But either way, no matter what happens with trading or anybody, even if they don't clear room for anybody, I think Walker Jenkins and definitely Kalen Culpepper are going to debut this year. Knock on all the wood, assuming they stay healthy. I think those guys are definitely going to debut. So one way or another, Walker Jenkins is going to be on the Twins in 2026. Maybe we'll jump right to Buxton. Buxton, he got the injection in his hip. Derek Shelton in post-game that day said they expect him to be down for 7 days. So he's placed on the injured list. Now, down for 7 days means basically not doing anything. So then he's got to get ramped back up. So how long, they don't know, basically. The step one is have him shut down for 7 days. Step two is see how he's doing. Maybe he's going to be ready to ramp up and that goes smoothly. Maybe he's going to not be feeling great and that's going to just take some more time. Buxton, he's had this issue come up multiple times this season, and he's come back from it and looked incredible. And then he came back from it after the All-Star break and didn't look so good. That was a small sample. There's times that he comes back from stuff like this and doesn't even need a rehab assignment. We'll see. So it's kind of a wait and see thing, but it doesn't sound like he is expected to miss, weeks upon weeks or month, but we don't know right now. So, that obviously puts a pretty big cloud over the Twins. But, one guy, the Atlanta Braves, the 2021 Atlanta Braves lost Ronald Acuna for the whole rest of the season and the postseason, and they won the World Series. So one guy can't make or break a team. And, that has to be the case for the Twins and Byron Buxton. But that's an extreme example because Byron Buxton is not going to miss the rest of the season. But point being, even when your best player's out, you have other guys that have to pick up the slack. Joe Ryan also another name in the mix that is, definitely kind of putting a bit of a cloud over the kind of trade deadline and can they do it? Can they not? I felt like there was a lot of dramatic reactions to his last outing, to be honest. Now, he said himself, and Derek Shelton said all as well, that something just wasn't quite crisp, wasn't quite right. But I was like having a panic attack that Joe Ryan wasn't going to get through his bullpen that pregame that day because, he gave up 6 home runs, had the All-Star game, which can be really disruptive to pitchers. Comes back out, gives up 6 home runs. Then we hear about a kind of a dead arm period or whatever. I'm thinking, have we seen the last of Joe Ryan in 2026? So I guess I was being overly dramatic about that part. Then I thought everybody's kind of dramatic about his last outing. I thought it was, obviously after coming off of that Cleveland start, much better outing than that. His velocity was right where you wanted it. I know the broadcast showed multiple times that his velo was dropping by inning, but overall in that outing, his average fastball velocity was actually ever so slightly up from the year average. So that wasn't a concern. No walks from Joe Ryan in that outing. So, didn't know what to expect from him. I was just relieved that he went 6 innings, did surrender the solo homer in the 3rd inning. So it's not like it was completely clean, but the Royals didn't score. Or no, excuse me. In that 4th inning, the Royals don't score without Keyshaw's misplay in center field that led to Salvador Perez's triple. If that doesn't happen, maybe Keyshaw doesn't. Maybe you can't expect a guy to catch that. Maybe Buxton would have. Maybe Walker Jenkins would have. But I don't think you can expect anybody to catch that ball. But you hope that a Buxton or somebody who's more experienced in center field doesn't let that ball get by them then, like Keyshaw did, that led to that triple. If that doesn't happen, Joe Ryan only gives up 3 runs instead of 4 runs. He's got a quality start of 6 runs and 3 runs, or 6 innings and 3 runs. Now he did get 11 swinging strikes too, which, that's not like a primo Joe Ryan, but that's also not bad. I think he struck out 4 in 6 innings. So yeah, not regular Joe, not regular Joe, but I think we can see that, hopefully see that progression from that horrible Cleveland start to this start against Kansas City, to hopefully connecting the dots to this next outing. Now, Joe has been worse in the second half. That's definitely something to be aware of, but I'm encouraged by the progress, because the guy goes to the All-Star game, gets absolutely crushed. You hear his start getting pushed back, and that he's having arm trouble. It was just red flags going like crazy. I was super freaked out about how he was going to look. And, again, didn't look like his regular old self, but looked like he can get there potentially in the next outing or two. Touched on that. I'm going to get to the chat here, but one last kind of a topic I brought in to discuss. Also, I'm going to do a Von Lackey check-in. That game's probably over by now. But that was, as I was prepping for this, I had been keeping an eye on that game. He drew a walk and stole a base in his first plate appearance. That is final. So yeah, Lackey went 0 for 1 with 2 walks and a run scored, stole a base, did commit an error, tried to be a little bit too aggressive, also had a pass ball. He caught the whole game, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pitchers. Maybe he's been in Fort Myers, so maybe he's caught those guys in bullpens, but first game action, catching them first time, in game situation. So fun day though. Carson Tinney, who's the DH, also went 0 for 1 with 2 walks and scored a run. Multiple guys made their pro debuts for Fort Myers, so that's gonna be really fun. Manuel Rodriguez played center field for most of the game, went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Looked like he hadn't hit in a very long time. He's looking rough in the early stages of this rehab assignment of his. But so that game is over. Okay, so the lineup. It's Freaky Friday. It's been Freaky Friday in the second half. All of a sudden, the lineup that carried this team in the first half is bad, and the bullpen is really good, as we talked about. The lineup has to be the strength of this team, though. The rotation is good. The rotation's solid, but with Joe Ryan maybe not being bankable, the lineup has to be the strength of this team. And it has been not just like sluggish, just bad in the second half. Entering today, so we're not including today's numbers. Today's numbers are as a whole aren't going to be good, because again, coming into that ninth inning, they had 1 hit. So it's not like today's game, even though they won, it's not going to raise these numbers much. The Twins ranked 27th in WRC plus for the second half. So again, we're not talking about just sort of trailing their first half. We're talking about one of the worst lineups in baseball so far in the second half. So that's got to change, not having Buxton around, even though, it sounds like there is hope that's not going to be a long-term thing. However long he's out is going to hurt, and especially since the Twins are bad against left-handed pitching, not having him is tough. So, it is what it is. They got to keep things going. It's razor thin. Again, taking a look at those standings. The picture, if you think about it, Detroit's only 3.5 games back, but sounds pretty concrete that they're going to be trading away pieces. They have quite a few, not just Skubal, but they have quite a number of guys on expiring contracts. We'll see how that goes. And then in the wild card, what do you do with this? To 500 team game out of the playoffs? Like, I understand the people who kind of look at the Twins with a sober eye and say, like, I don't know, man. I don't know about these guys, but they keep staying in it. They keep winning. They pull these games out of nowhere. This is a tough team. Josh Bell has said this is the closest clubhouse he's ever been in. The guy, a 10-year veteran, has been on a ton of teams, a ton of winning teams too. So it's a really fascinating thing. I saw somebody asked if they get swept in Seattle, if I would change course. I think that's a legitimate question to ask. And I think even though Tom Poled's talked about buying, Jeremy Zoll came out really strongly and made a very strong statement toward buying. If something like that happened, I would not be shocked if they changed course. So it would not shock me if that's how on the edge that the Twins are one way or another. Seattle, let's pull that. Let me grab that again real quick. Seattle's right in the mix still too. Seattle's only a game and a half back of the Twins. Now, they have not been playing well. The Twins, if you kind of look back over the past 40 games or so, the Twins are playing well in that stretch, even though they've been pretty middling in the second half so far. Seattle, if you kind of do that look back period, did that recently, and they have been playing bad. Seen some stuff. I've watched some videos from a couple of their YouTube channel, a couple fans, Seattle fans who have good channels on here. Super fed up, super fed up with that team. And they have a lot of pitching. Now, Luis Castillo is definitely by far their most available pitcher. And I think, obviously if you look at their other rotation guys, you kind of say, well, I kind of like these other guys better. And I get that, but Luis Castillo would be a nice pickup for the Twins, but I'm not sure. Again, I don't, some of the same things we say about the Twins, you can say about the Mariners. So it's hard to know what's going to happen. It sounds like their front office and manager are on a pretty big hot seat right now. So that could kind of influence how they go. So we shall see. No, nothing is set in stone. Nothing is impossible. I could see the Twins sweeping the Mariners. I could see the Twins getting swept by the Mariners. I could see the Twins having an excellent second half or a terrible second half. On the Twins Off Daily podcast over the break, I did predict the Tigers would somehow sneak into the playoffs. I think, again, they have multiple guys who are free agents. Like if they don't, and they've been playing super, they have like the second or third best record in the American League over a long look back period. Like they've had a tough week. But I just don't know if when their next window, they have a ton of young guys, obviously, right? Ton of good young players. Max Clark is joining that group now, but they're losing like their whole rotation, and that is not easy to rebuild. So you've got the guy that everybody wants, Skubal. You've got the guy. That's the one guy everybody wants to try to get through the playoffs. The ace of aces. That's such a huge advantage in the postseason, and you're not going to have him. And yeah, he's going to get a haul, but I don't think they're going to get as much as a lot of people imagine. Guys who are on expiring contracts, he's an ace, so he's going to get plenty, but maybe not as much as a lot of people envision. So, and I know I've been saying a lot of this stuff about the Twins, but I would say the same thing for Detroit. I mean, I understand they've been bad. I think they're 3.5 backs. They didn't quite get. Let me grab the AL Central one. So yeah, they're only 3.5 back of the Twins as when I grabbed this, whenever that was. They had been playing better. Now they're only 5-5 in their last 10, so they've cooled off some. That's not good. So they didn't come out in the second half as hot as they needed to kind of get that prediction. But let's see. Nobody was going to doubt my prediction that the Twins would buy but miss the playoffs. So nobody's trading for Emmanuel Rodriguez while he's hurt. And I don't really like the idea of, like, if you're selling Ryan Jeffers, you should just sell. That's kind of where I'm at. If you're trying to win, you keep Ryan Jeffers. And my kind of talking point has been, well, if the team you're trading Ryan Jeffers to wants him, well, they're trying to buy. But Emerson Hancock, let's see, what's his contract status? Oh, he's not even a free agent until 2031. So you would really have to put yourself in the Mariners' shoes and say, okay, we have this good starting pitcher, the hardest thing to acquire in all of baseball. He's going to be cheap for us for multiple years. We're outside looking in the playoff picture right now. So we are not in the playoffs right now. So we could do this trade, and Ryan Jeffers might not even be the missing piece to get us into the postseason. So no, I don't think they would do that. But like I think a lot of you guys have heard, if you give me 99 trade ideas, I'll probably tell you, or 100, I'd probably tell you 99 of them don't work. I think I just have like a really pessimistic outlook on a lot of those ideas. And it's just really, really hard to build trades for MLB guys that make sense too. And again, I think if they trade Ryan Jeffers or anybody that they're on the edge with these guys. And I understand you're trying to maybe trade Jeffers for pitching, and you're hoping that those pitching additions offset the loss of Jeffers. Maybe that's possible, but you'd have to find a Jeffers equivalent, a guy who's on an expiring contract, and you'd have to find a team that has excess pitching, which is starting pitching, which is really unusual. So what team is in the hunt enough to want Ryan Jeffers, but also has enough pitching to part with despite being in the hunt? I think that's going to be really hard to find, because that theoretical team is probably going to say, well, we'd have to give up MLB pieces to get Ryan Jeffers. We don't want to do that. So we're going to set our sights a little bit lower, but we can get another catcher by just using prospects. And I just think that's kind of how that conversation would work out. But again, I feel like I'm not really great at this stuff. A lot of you guys are better at building hypothetical trade ideas than I am. A lot of the names, though, that are thrown out, I would love. And yeah, you think you can bring Emerson Hancock, or I saw Hunter Green thrown out there too. Like, yeah, let's go. But you have to do that calculating. Like Hunter Green has 3 more years of team control. Looks like, well, two in a team option. Like, why would and yeah. And again, I don't want to sit on here and sound like I'm a jerk, just like, picking apart all these trade ideas, but it's difficult too. Like, so if anybody's throwing ideas out and I shoot them down, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at building trades. So, yeah. Yeah, I think there is a correlation to the longer Buxton is going to be out, the higher likely it is that Jenkins is in the bigs. Again, right now, the stance is he's shut down for 7 days, and then we'll see. So 7 days from now, or 6 or 5 or however many it is, if the we'll see turns out to be, well, he doesn't feel any better, I think that's really going to accelerate the potential timeline for Walker Jenkins. I mean, that's an interesting hypothetical. Yeah, if they sell and get some prospects, but also like yeah, I think I'm following the hypothetical. Like, let's say on Monday they sell, but then like on Tuesday, Tom Pohlad like lays out the plan for 2027 and beyond, and like does a hard commitment. And not that we're gonna take his word for it. I think a lot of people would roll their eyes pretty hard at that. But if he's like, hey, we understand the situation. We didn't think this was the year, but we understand we need to win. And we were close this year. We're excited about how this year went, but it wasn't quite there. Next year is going to be our year. We're going to push the payroll forward. I mean, that would be like the teaspoon of sugar helping the medicine go down. But it would be something. And yeah, that's going to be tough. If they've talked this much about wanting to buy, it's gonna be really tough for them to change that narrative if they do sell. I'm fascinated to see what happens. I'm so excited to have so many things of possibilities. It's fun to think about all this stuff. But I'm also really appreciate you guys have been showing up for all this stuff. I haven't been putting tons of stuff out lately because you guys keep showing up to these things, showing up and watching my videos. So I really appreciate it. And it's just been a lot of fun to talk about because even if, I do think the Twins are going to be buyers, but even if they're sellers, like, hey, I'm going to have fun learning about some new prospects. I'm going to have fun talking about some system recap, new guys in the system recap. So, I'm not anybody who's really on team sell, which there's a lot of people out there that are. I'm not there, but I can't, I can't say like if they did sell, I would be upset about it. Now, I think they need to both not buy hard or sell hard, like not a fire sale, not trading like top prospects to try to improve. But I don't like that middle. I don't think you're going to end up doing well if like let's say you traded Ryan Jeffers for prospects, because again, it's really hard to make an MLB piece for an MLB piece trade. Not impossible, so maybe it is, but in this hypothetical, let's just say they trade Ryan Jeffers for prospects, and then they turn around and like trade prospects for pitching. So it's like, well, you got rid of Jeffers, but you did improve the pitching staff. So, maybe it's a wash in the end, but then it's a wash in the end. So you didn't actually really get any better. Maybe you addressed one thing and you hope, fingers crossed, hope that Victor Caratini can be any good, which he has not been since Ryan Jeffers returned, and cross your fingers that Alex Jackson can continue to play well, which he hasn't in most of his career. There's no guaranteeing. Those guys did a great job while Ryan Jeffers was out, but there's no guaranteeing that if you trade Ryan Jeffers, you're going to get that production from them again. So that would make me nervous. Yeah, Reed Detmers, that's a guy who has been thrown out a bunch. Him and Jose Soriano. It sounds like those guys are very available. And again, if I'm talking about anything that's already gone down, let me know, because I haven't gotten this stream prepped, and then keeping an eye on Von Lackey and company and Fort Myers. I'm just kind of taking a look through trade rumors. I don't think there's been anything. Okay. So yeah, Detmers, he has multiple years of team control though. So my thing with those guys is you have to be prepared to give up something that's going to hurt. You have to be prepared to give up a guy who is playing well. That's going to be tricky. Yeah, I mean, the catcher thing, it kind of, and Jeffers too, it kind of depends on how you view 2027. 2027, Pablo Lopez is going to be back. I think it's his last year under team control. If you bring Joe Ryan back, it's going to be his last year under team control. So I kind of would love to see them. And if you keep Trevor Larnach, it's going to be his last year of team control. If you give Ryan Jeffers the qualifying offer and he stays, now all of a sudden you have, there is just like a clear line from 2027 to 2028. But you have, that's a foundation, that's a starting point, without even talking about, Byron Buxton or Taj Bradley or Walker Jenkins, who's definitely going to be in the picture, Kalen Culpepper, any of the other guys. That's a good starting point. That's a really good starting point. And I realize that's the same starting point they had this season. But even without Pablo, here we are, 500, over 100 games, 110 games into the season. So I think that's just a nice foundation. But yeah, I mean, with Jeffers being a pending free agent, but again, with that qualifying offer still in place for this end of this calendar year, Caratini, obviously he's not going to be around beyond next year, is his final year under team control as well. So a lot of guys set to be free agents in 2028 in particular. Good question here from Jared. Should priority be to trade for bullpen or starting pitching depth? I think the thing about getting a starter is that also helps the bullpen too, because you could move somebody to the bullpen or have somebody pitch out of the bullpen more often. Kendry Rojas has looked good. He pitched 4 shutout innings in that emergency start, and then he pitched 3 shutout innings out of the bullpen the other day. I don't think you can trust him to be able to deliver 5 innings on a consistent enough basis that you could really put him in the rotation. If you put him in the bullpen, even if he's a multi-inning guy, but if you put him in the bullpen only, that could be a difference maker. Also, he would be the first guy I would think about that with. Connor Prelip he's looked good. He's looked good coming out of the second half, but he's always a guy you're kind of thinking about trying to get extra days off. What if you put him on like the 4 innings every, just or like a creative. I've talked about the Swarzak, the Anthony Swarzak, kind of these creative long relief uses for those guys. So if you got a rotation piece, that would kind of open up some possibilities. Or even like, yeah, you could use Rojas and Prelip as like followers. Maybe that doesn't make as much sense because they're both left-handed, and you kind of really mess up a lineup. You can get more creative. Now, they do need bullpen, but I think they need back end bullpen. They don't need more Tommy Nance type guys who are nice depth, maybe seventh inning guys that have some experience. They get relief. I want them to get guys you would slot in above Andres Gomez and Andrew Morris, guys who are pitching well and have experience. Now, that doesn't need to be like a Mason Miller. There's other guys than that. I talked about a few of them in my recent video. There's a lot of good relievers out there. But like a good question is like, could that reliever you acquire, could Kendry Rojas be better than that guy anyway? And if you're kind of on the fence there, I would say then go get the starting pitcher. So it's kind of a tricky call, but yeah, I would say, and another thing to consider too, the starting pitcher is going to throw more innings. He's going to cover more of your games, fewer games, individual games, maybe lower leverage, but he's going to cover more innings than any reliever you're going to get is. It's a good question. I didn't answer it. I think my answer, my rant led to I would maybe lean starting pitching. That is correct. Emmanuel Rodriguez, this is his final option year. Man, these guys signed out of the international market, signed out of the Dominican, these high school draftees, they got to get added to the 40-man roster so young, and then, you burn up their options so fast. So, yeah, he is out of options next season. As soon as he's up to speed, like if I've said it about Kalen Culpepper, I think if Culpepper is healthy and he's getting back up to speed now, but let's say he never got that butt injured butt cheek, I think he would be on the Twins right now. Emmanuel Rodriguez, I think he probably would have been on the Twins right now too. Because you're right, we have to see what he's got. That's a tricky thing. That's the thing about how you've heard me talk. You've heard probably everybody who talks about the Twins talk about how they just got too many of the same player, too many left-handed hitting corner outfielders. And now you're in the situation where you need to look at, you've put Keishel into the picture now, which I kind of get it, but also it really complicates things. This is a very strange roster build at the moment. And especially when you've got the 3 catchers in the active roster, it's like things are just really weird. You've got Roden, who you're trying to get looks at. You've got Keishel, who you're trying to figure out if he's an outfielder. You've got Rodriguez, who you got to get a look at. You got Jenkins, who you want to take a look at. It's really crazy. Both Max Clark and Walker Jenkins are shockingly good plate discipline guys. Max Clark, I mean, they're both kind of billed as more, crazy athletic guys, but their approaches and their plate appearances are both really impressive. And I think that was expected of Jenkins. I don't think that was expected as much of Clark. Clark might, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think Clark might strike out more, but he might draw more walks than Jenkins. But both of them have pretty close strikeout numbers to walk numbers. And especially for being 21-year-old guys. That it's going to be a fun comparison their whole careers. I've gotten so many questions on Matt Wallner, and I feel bad every time I get them. But I just don't understand why anybody is trying to acquire Matt Wallner. Like there's other guys to look for. There's, he's playing well in AAA, like he's hitting a lot of home runs, but his strikeout rate is worse than average in the International League. His walk rate is even worse than average in the International League. So, I just don't. If you're a team that's rebuilding, I don't know why. Like you want, I don't know. There's other players who could be upgrades that you could target. Who are not going to have the trouble that Matt Wallner does. They're not going to have the warts that Matt Wallner does. And this is kind of a lot of things with my trades. If you're trying to get a piece to acquire for the Twins, that means that's an attractive, valuable piece. You can't just take this. This drives us nuts as Twins fans when all the Yankee trade rumors are like, "Hey, who are 3 Yankees that are bottoming out right now? Can we trade them to the Twins for Ryan Jeffers?" Like, that's not how it works. Unfortunately, if you're getting something good, you have to get something good. Unfortunately, and Matt Wallner's not something good. Maybe if the Twins, in a scenario where the Twins do a fire sale, let's just pretend, they trade Ryan Jeffers, they trade uh, Trevor Larnach, they trade Josh Bell. Maybe Matt Wallner will get some run as a DH in that scenario. Maybe not, though. Like, again, they have some other guys they want to give looks. So he's so far out of the picture, and it's not that he's hitting a ton of home runs, but it's not that unusual for guys like that to go down to AAA and just go nuts. Um, yeah, service time doesn't have anything to do with options. So you're added to the 40-man roster. If you don't break camp, that's an option. You're optioned to the minor leagues. Now you can be optioned 100 times in a season, and you only burn one option. But that's every time and again, these guys get added to the 40-man roster so young that they burn options so fast. So yeah, this was his final option year. Yes. Yep. They definitely want to give Jenkins an everyday role. Yep. Nailed it. He'll probably sit against lefties more often than not. But other than that, and he probably would still play against some lefties. Yeah. So, like, they don't want to call him up because Buxton's out. But if Buxton was healthy, we would send him back down. Like, they don't want to. And again, it kind of gets into that Alan Roden conversation. It gets into that Luke Keeschel conversation. I get the people who want to move Trevor Larnach to kind of clear that space, but he's been their third best hitter. He's been one of the better. He's been like a top, considering he doesn't face lefties. You do have to take that into account. But he's been a really good, really productive hitter this year. So again, I kind of talked about it on the Ryan Jeffers topic. I don't know if you're trying to win, you're trying to win, and you should be keeping the guys who are playing well. I understand people are excited about Walker Jenkins. I'm excited about Walker Jenkins. But it's really tricky. I have no idea what he's going to give you. There is a good floor in that he is a good defensive outfielder. I think I'm not as slam dunk about him being like a good center fielder as some other people are. He runs well. He's a good base runner. He's an aggressive and good base runner. Absolutely. He brings tons of value on the bases. And he'd be a huge upgrade over Luke Keeschel in center field. No, sorry, Luke. He covers a lot of ground, Keeschel does. So I get the idea. I've always understood the idea of taking a look at him in the outfield. Horrible arm, though, and just lack of experience. To be fair to Luke Keeschel, he just hasn't played a ton out there. So it's not really, fair to put him under that kind of a microscope. Jenkins also just takes really good at bats. Now, we've seen that, though. Some of those guys can get exploited. Edouard Julien, he was way too passive, but at a certain point, major league pitching is going to kind of figure you out. And the question is, can you counter adjust? And we just don't know that until they're here. You just don't know that. Oh, I got way far behind on the chat here. I'm catching up. I promise. I'm catching up. Some talk about Joe. I'm guessing that was back from when we were discussing Joe. I don't really like the number one ace. If we talk about ace, there's I don't know, 5 aces maybe across baseball at any time. So is Joe Ryan an ace? No. Is Joe Ryan like a number one is he one of the top 30 starting pitchers in baseball? Yes, definitely. So it's kind of like semantics. No, we will not get Louis Varland back. You got to let that one go. You got to let him If you love something, let it go. He's been great. I have not. I should look at potential trade targets to help with the offense. But if anybody watched my trade targets video, I am really squarely on do not trade any pitching prospects. Do not acquire any bats. Trade your prospect bats for pitchers. And if that limits what you can do, so be it. If because if I can see absolutely they could really use a right-handed bat in particular. Even with Buxton. Even if Buxton comes back after however many 10 days, let's see. Let's just give the rosiest possibility. They still would need help, but that you only have so much trade capital. And one of the things that frustrated me about last deadline was how poorly they used their trade capital. Um, Brock Stewart's not some kind of incredible bullpen arm. What did you need James Outman for? I still don't hate the Louis Varland trade. You guys are going to throw rotten tomatoes at me for even just suggesting that I don't despise that trade because Kendry Rojas looks like a very, very attractive pitcher, and he's going to be a Twin for a very long time. I like Alan Roden. I get why they viewed Alan Roden as valuable. What are you doing with Alan Roden? Like, what did you? That's not value you're going to get. Like I said, it's a really odd roster composition right now. I kind of I'm kind of viewing things through that eye and being too narrow minded about this deadline. But I really think every trade chip, every trade asset you have should be pointed towards pitching. And, if that means the offense doesn't get all the way there, I think the Twins have a better lineup than a lot of these other teams in the hunt. A lot better. They are playing poorly and they have not been good against left-handed pitching. So definitely some things to solve, but it would depend. It's low on my list of targets. We'll put it that way. Yeah, Kenley Jansen would be nice. I'm not sure if Detroit, if they really go into fire sale mode, they're not going to care. But I usually think, is a team really going to want to trade in their division? That probably is one where if Detroit does go that direction, maybe they would, be open to sending him the Twins' way. It's hard for me to see any reason why they wouldn't. And that's kind of a good example of like, you can't get your like Mason Miller unless you are giving up tippy top prospects, probably. But if you want like a guy who has experience in the ninth inning, guy who's pitched in a lot of big games, guy who's pitched in a bunch of postseason games, that's the kind of a name that fits the bill. And, I know they got LaTroy out there, so that's helpful. They got Rogers out there, that's helpful. But they could probably use another guy that's been through a lot. Man, I don't know. It's asking about Cal Raleigh. How do you go from 60 home runs to as bad as he's been? There, and then like Vlad Guerrero too. Like, what is going on? Baseball is so weird. Yeah, I don't understand how those guys can go from one extreme to the other in one season, And then, wouldn't shock me at all if they just bounce right back next year. Something to keep in mind too about trades is you don't really I think teams are being more protective of their top prospects. You don't see a lot of like top 100 prospects in trades. Now the Skubal situation we'll see because that there's not a true ace on the market very often. But I think the Twins could do pretty well even without having to dip into their top 100 prospect type guys. Because it is competitive. There's a lot of buyers and not a lot of sellers. But it's almost like I think you can build up packages and we saw that on the other side of things too. The Twins acquired multiple prospects in most of the deals that they made. And I've been talking about the challenges of making a MLB from MLB trade. They did one last year and it was weird because neither team competed, but the Griffin Jacks for Taj Bradley trade. That's got to be one of the weirder trades that happened. So maybe some other weird stuff will happen this time around. And another thing I'm trying to remind myself is this playoff format hasn't been around for that long. And I think I'd get a little stuck in kind of thinking about the trade deadline and imagining the trade market from kind of the older prior to the expanded postseason format. And there is just the demand is so much higher than the supply. Yeah, Griffin Jax is pitching well as a starting pitcher for Tampa Bay right now. Super interesting that they were able to pull off transitioning to him to the rotation, in the middle of a winning season. He was terrible in the bullpen for them too. It's crazy. But yeah, I know a lot of people have kind of were crowning that Taj Bradley trade as a huge win for the Twins, but Jax is looking like a pretty intriguing starting pitcher himself. This one has popped up a few times. Wait, did I get? Yeah. No, I'm not trading Ryan Jeffers for 2 relievers. I would not do that. Especially one that doesn't have any MLB experience. Yeah, Gausman, that's a good one. I think he would be a really a lot of teams would be interested in him, even though he's not pitched well lately. Yeah, he's probably a guy teams are, analytics departments would drool over and think they could I can fix that guy. Kind of like Freddie Peralta too for the Mets. Both those guys are probably going to get traded. Jeffers for Aaron Boone and have the John Boy staff. We're getting creative now. We're getting creative. Outside the box. Emmanuel Rodriguez is not healthy. And then, I think this is a joke. That Raya guy in like 2 or 3 hours. Okay. It's hard. The tone. You got to put the sarcasm font in. Not sure on that one. But that's another guy that I've seen thrown in a lot. You got to keep in mind, Emmanuel Rodriguez is not healthy. He's missed a lot of time. You'd be selling way low. Maybe a team would be interested, but you'd be selling incredibly low on him. And Marco Raya is another one I've seen. I think because MLB Pipeline has Marco Raya like super high on their ranking still. And I don't understand that. Marco Raya is definitely a reliever now. There is no question about that. And he's shown potential, but he's not pitched all that well. They have him as their number 15 Twins prospect. This hasn't been updated for the draft yet, though. Yeah, that makes more sense. This must be old. Some of these prospect lists have been updated and some of them haven't for the draft. So that one hasn't. But I've seen people reference that. It's like, who has Marco Raya as the number 15 Twins prospect still? He's outside of my top 30. Yeah. Robbie Ray, I agree. Yeah, Robbie Ray would be a good one too. And I agree too that he wouldn't cost that much. And he's dead. You would expect him to be available to the Giants are pretty clear sellers. So he is in that boat of, there are going to be teams looking for starting pitching. There's probably a team that maybe specifically is looking for a left-handed starting pitcher. So it's not like, he's going to be able to get him for nothing, but I think you could get him in for a package and look at it and be like, okay, I'm cool with that. That's probably not going to really kill us down the line. And he's not pitched great, but especially keeping in mind that he pitches in an extreme pitcher's park, but he's a guy you can put right in the rotation. That's valuable in its own right. And another guy he's pitched some big games. Not a ton, not like anybody in the Dodgers who is in every October, but we just passed the hour mark, so probably should wrap things up from here. Probably going to grab some highlights of Von Lackey to share tomorrow at Limestone Pipeline. That's my goal, at least. Not sure I'm going to get to it. Hey, ask some Dobnak. Let's get Dobnak back. Yeah, forget Louis Varland. Bring back the Dobber. Um, yeah, that's a good. We kind of touched on this earlier. That's a very good question. Again, I'm really far away from targeting any kind of hitting, but that could be that would help a lot. The Twins do need some kind of help there. You know, be outstanding if Gabriel Gonzalez was playing a little better. He's him being so defensively limited is a challenge that's going to be hard for him. Alex Jackson has hit some, but I don't know. I think if after the trade deadline, I don't see the Twins carrying three catchers. So, I know Kyle Fedko looked bad in his very brief uh, stint with the Twins. It's just really hard to have a young player and then say like, "Oh, we know you're used to playing every day, but hey, you're only going to hit against left-handed pitching, and we're just going to bring you in the most random parts of a game, and like you're going to sit for 5 days, and then we'll just have you play back to back." It's a tough, and that wouldn't be have to be the case if they had some other abilities, but those guys really do have a pretty narrow. But I mean, one X factor could be Kalen Culpepper. So, again, kind of like the Walker Jenkins conversation, you never know what a guy's going to give you in his first exposure to the big leagues. There could be, warts that aren't being exploited in AAA that are going to get exploited by major leaguers, but there are options. There are cards to pull. I think you can say that much more about the lineup concerns than the pitching concerns for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. On the Yankee fan mocks for Ryan Jeffer was like, who are our guys that aren't playing well? Anthony Volpe. Who else lost their job recently? I don't know. Throw him in there, and we'll get Ryan Jeffers, and maybe they'll throw Walker Jenkins in too. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, yeah. You don't draft. I like that. That's good. You don't draft for position need in baseball, but you sure as heck should trade for it. I didn't get to this, but one of the things I wanted to talk about was, oh gosh, maybe I did mention it somewhere. The Twins are kind of doing this, but I don't think it's totally intentional. But I don't hate the organizational strategy of like, we are going to draft bats. We're going to draft bats like crazy. We're going to get where our prospect list is going to be 30 bats in our top 30. And then you just trade those guys for pitchers because pitching development is so difficult and weird right now. And that kind of has worked out for the Twins with Joe Ryan, with Taj Bradley. They seem to have done nicely there in trades. Now they don't all work out. Simeon Woods Richardson didn't work out quite as well, although that worked for a minute there. So yeah, I think it's just easier to get a position player to a point where they're of value that you could trade them than it is a pitcher. Uh, but at a certain point, a lot of teams are only looking for pitching. So it was kind of a dumb, I don't know, that dumb thought I had. But yeah, you definitely shouldn't draft for need, but trade for it for sure. God, Vlad, it's almost August. Vlad doesn't have a homer at home. Oh my gosh. Whew. Shohei for Royce Lewis. Who says no? I mean, Royce said that walk off. Shohei's not pitching right now. He's like half a player right now. All right. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah. Yeah, I like that, Aaron. There's no such thing as a pitching prospect. I'm getting worse and worse all the time at figuring out pitching prospects because they change. They didn't used to change like Connor Prelip just comes out this year and throws like an excellent curveball. I knew he had worked on a sinker in the past, and that really didn't look like it was much of anything other than a show me pitch, which is not a bad thing to have with a starting pitcher. Any kind of fourth pitch you can have, whatever. Uh, just all of a sudden out of nowhere, just a killer curveball. So yeah, how do you prepare for that? um, yeah, that's the same thing is happening with Ryan Gallagher right now, and my buddy Jamie Cameron, who we do Limestone Pipeline with. Jamie kind of stuck with Ryan Gallagher in our midseason updated prospect list, and I kind of got off of Ryan Gallagher, who was a guy that the Twins acquired from the Willie Castro trade, and I was higher on entering the year, so I was kind of surprised that we flipped. And coming out of the second half, Ryan Gallagher is dramatically, dramatically more successful with his changeup. This is a starting pitcher that the Twins have with the Saints, which is notable because the Twins do not have hardly any actual starting pitching, guys that can throw 5 innings on a regular basis in AAA or AA. So he is a uncomfortably important kind of depth piece. Hopefully that they don't need on the big club this year, but even looking long term, they just don't have a ton of guys that I look at and like, oh, that's a starting pitcher. Yeah, today he went 5 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts on 94 pitches. He has a 6.38 ERA with the Saints. So I've been watching him. I felt like he was too four-seam fastball heavy. His best secondary pitch pre-deadline we were supposed to be wrapping it up, and now you guys got me going here. Was a cutter, which is fine, but it didn't really feel like he had much else going on from there. And his changeup wasn't his first 2 starts coming out of the break. His changeup was ridiculous. He was missing bats like crazy with it. He got 2 whiffs on it tonight, so not as many. I'm not sure, what the lineup composition he was facing, whether it was more lefty heavy or righty heavy. But still, he threw it, I think, more often than he did in the first half. And this, whatever it is, it also worries me that his velo really can fluctuate from start to start. That weirds me out. But he got 12 swinging strikes tonight as well. Again, an uncomfortably important guy in their pitching depth picture. I have no idea how we got. We were talking about pitching prospects and guys just changing dramatically all of a sudden. Hitters do that too to a certain degree these days because they can measure everything. Ryan Kreidler, they talked about on the broadcast, I think today, the part I caught that Ryan Kreidler added like 3 miles per hour to his swing speed over the offseason. Like how do you account for that? How do you scout that? How do you prepare for that? That's just it's impressive. All these guys have the instant feedback that you can get with all this technology now. Incredible. I don't think I could do 24. I don't think I could do 24 if they win the World Series, but maybe 12. Maybe. I mean, I don't know if I could actually speak like I don't know if you could comprehend my words at a certain point. I'd be so, we'll move on. We'll move on from that one. I'm trying to find somebody asked me about podcasts. And this will maybe wrap up. This will let me get off my ranting about prospects here. Somebody asked me about, maybe it was Aaron. I don't remember. I'm trying to find it. Somebody asked me anyway. Oh, here we go. I think I found it. Yeah. No, Panda. My bad. Do you have a favorite prospect right now? No, that's not the one. But hey, let's do this one. I thought there was some about podcasts. Do I have a favorite prospect right now without the best or hottest right now? Just a favorite. I am really I get excited about like really trying to advocate for guys when I feel like they're not being properly they're not getting the attention they deserve. That was really like what was rooted in my early Andrew Morris passion was like this guy, more people need to be talking about this guy. And I think even though this guy's been around and he's well regarded, Brandon Winokur is having a breakout season. He's in Double A as a 21-year-old. He's looking really good, and this is always confusing because he's also the guy I'm talking about that the Twins could trade because I think he's valuable. He's the guy that I think you could get nice players for. But yeah, Brandon Winokur, I don't think he's going to be shortstop. I do think third base is on the table. I think center field is on the table. He's not striking out nearly as much as I thought he would. He's walking more than I thought he would. The power doesn't always show up in game all the time, but it's there, and I could really see it in the next 2 seasons blossoming. I'm really excited about Brandon Winokur after he didn't look like much. I mean, he still had the base, and you could dream on him last year with Cedar Rapids, but those dreams are kind of coming to fruition this year. So I'm really, really into Brandon Winokur right now. There's probably other names forgetting as well, but he's the one that really stands out at first. But a content, not necessarily a podcast, but a content recommendation. It is not fair how good Trevor May is at YouTube. You should not be able to be a long-time MLB pitcher and as good at YouTube as he is. You should check out his channel. I think he dropped a new video today. I haven't seen that one yet. I think he puts out about a video a week. They're excellent, and it's like the kind of stuff you could only get from a major leaguer. So good, so not fair. And Trevor's just a good dude and a fun guy and has a sense of humor, is really thoughtful. The Twins really should reach out to him and try to establish some kind of a relationship with him, because he's so thoughtful about his journey through the major leagues and really articulates kind of some of the troubles and challenges that major leaguers face. They check that out if you have time. Trevor May, his channel is really good. Anyway, we gotta wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here. I'm having so much fun. Thank you for giving me the momentum. You guys showing up to these things, you guys watching my videos, that really keeps me going. Hanging out here live, that's so cool. Anybody shows up to these, let alone people who come and chat. I haven't streamed a ton, but I enjoy it. It is difficult, as some of you early people saw. I had some of the wrong graphics labeled. I had Josh Bell's labeled as the Kody Clemens at bat, so I kind of had to fix that one. It happens, but this is a great way to build community, and it's not always easy as Twins fans, especially in this kind of moment when, even though they're playing better now, there's Twins fandom is no doubt about it down, no doubt about it. And I kind of, a lot of the things that I look at, like talking about minor leagues, doing stuff like this, it's kind of like I look out and I say, somebody should be doing this. Somebody in the Twins, realm, somebody should be live streaming sometimes. Somebody should be talking about the minor leagues on YouTube. Somebody should have a YouTube channel. And if it's got to be me, hey, that's fine. But maybe, if I can, in addition to just having fun, if I can kind of show people, hey, you could probably start a YouTube channel and live stream, maybe kind of take a blueprint. If I can kind of lay that foundation for somebody else. And I watch other channels as well that live stream, and other teams. Even now this year, I've really started to watch some other teams content. There's like a Pirates one, there's a Mariners one, of course the Dodgers have like 15. And I've done that with them. They lay some foundation. I'm taking pieces from. But anyway, thanks for hanging out. Really appreciate you. We'll talk again soon. System recap tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that one.